This video is on how to best play against some of the top decks. This video will just cover three. So firstly, we'll start with the end deck. The end deck is one of the easiest but also one of the most frustrating decks to come up against, because the counterplay for the end deck revolves around getting rid of the attackers of the deck. The Zoroark in itself doesn't really do anything. As you can see, the attack only copies an attack from the bench, meaning that this Pokemon, if left on its own, cannot take knockouts. So they actually rely on Reshiram to do damage. But the trick is, you need to either get rid of the Reshiram or try playing around this attack, meaning you don't put too much damage on them. So if they use this attack to revenge do damage, it won't knock out your Pokemon. Because if you attack with something like Dragapult and put 200 damage on the end Zoroark, when it has 200 damage, it will use this attack and deal 400 damage from now on, knocking out basically everything in the game. Or it only has this as the only other option. So if you can't just get rid of the end Reshiram in general, so you have to either draw or revive it, that gets rid of significant amount of damage from the deck. There's also end Sigilyph, which is something you should be aware of as a game ender, which makes you win the game if you're on exactly one prize. So keep that in mind, because a few decks actually have this in it, as well as other deck with N in it as well, the N Zoroark. There's only one more main attacker in the form of N's Darmanitan, which for some reason not in this deck. Oops, see down there. It's actually D-A-R-M. There we go, N's Darmanitan, which the first attack is basically a counter for Cerulege GX, doing damage for energies in your opponent's grave. But the next one, which is this one here, Flame Body Cannon, does 90 damage to the active and a bench Pokemon, but discards the energy. But in the end deck, where they have NPP up, again, thing to get N hard, as you can see here, they can get back that dark energy from the grave, as well as accelerate dark energy using other supporters like Janine's Secret Art, as you can see here, which is already in the deck. So those sort of things make the deck very volatile, but also very open to counterplay. They will play a lot of recovery items. You have seen many in this deck, as my deck has support. So some of the support I have in the deck personally is Monkey Dory, because that allows me to alter my damage so that I wouldn't have to worry about getting straight knocked out, as well as I don't have to worry about trying to stack damage. I also copied it, or paired it rather, with Frostlass, because I like the ability of Frostlass to actually pile damage on the Zoroarks as well as the monkeys, so that I don't have to wait for them to put too much damage on him for me to use that revenge attack. And it doesn't really hit other Pokemon besides these three, and because of that 280 point barrier there, it means it can stack a good bit of damage without getting knocked out. And that's basically it. The deck doesn't have too much in the sense of it. They make pair it with something, but to stop the end deck and end archetype mainly, to have to knock this out easily, just get rid of the attackers. It only has so much recovery they'll be running. And with that, let's move on to the second deck. The second deck being Gholdengo. Again, not standard Gholdengo. This is actually my jackpot deck, because it basically plays no support. Or the only support is actually attackers, because I just use Cerulege and Gholdengo in this deck. There we go, Goldie Boy, rich man himself. So you all should know, most popular deck in Wheels. Ability to draw 2 cards in the active, 1 on the bench, one metal energy, and you can discard any amount of energy. You do 50 for each. That's it. Very high cap and very low ceiling. So this deck requires energy. So the first thing is, we have Energy Surge Pro. If you're actually playing Genesect and you can get it off early enough, you can actually neuter most of these decks because they won't be able to actually search for their energy. That's one. Secondly, these decks drop on mainly rely on Gholdengo and EX Pokemon. So if you're playing something like Iron Thorns, the deck is pretty much shut down there already. Also, the hard counter for this deck is actually Cornerstone Mask. So I'll bring one up here. Boom, Cornerstone Mask. Cornerstone Mask is the perfect counter for this deck. The only Pokemon in this deck that can kill Cornerstone Mask typically is either one of the one prize, Gholdengos, or the Scyther. And the Scyther does damage for each of your effect Pokemon. So even that may not be able to one-shot it, and he can actually one-shot the Scyther. Because the Scyther only has 148 points. So, easy counterplay there for Gholdengo. They try to keep the energies off, and as well, they learn a lot of super energy retrieval, normal energy retrieval to get back those energies they discard, and they seem to try to draw into them. So, if you can actually also item lock them out of their switches, you can actually neuter them. So, with things like Jellicent or even a well-placed Budew, you can actually lock them out of their energies. Because if they had a large turn where they actually ditched all their energies at all, so all energies exist in the grave, and you actually item lock them, there's no other way for them to get back those energies. They also lose the game. So again, if you can outlast them or stop them from getting energy to their hand, it significantly slows down the deck. Things that stop their effects, again, Iron Thorns, hard counter for this deck, as well as Cornerstone Mask. Again, it might seem obvious to some people, others may not have seen it. Because again, stopped by Iron Thorns. Pretty simple. Also, most people can slide in at least one Cornerstone Mask, and as a general rule of thumb, a card that stops a lot of cards in the format is Cornerstone. Because even if you go back to the end deck, Cornerstone will actually stop this because he can't actually deal damage to Cornerstone. If you read the fact of this attack does damage, 3 damage counters on it. It doesn't apply damage counters, meaning he can't get over Cornerstone. And even the Damatan can't hit Cornerstone on the bench because again, Cornerstone is a Terra. So meaning it can't be dealt damage while on the bench. Terra box effect right up there. So all that meaning, so far both of these are well placed Cornerstone, very good, and even an Iron Thorns. So you have advantages match up here. You'll stop the draw effect, but you won't stop the attack with Iron Thorns though. So thing to note there. And finally, for this video, actually, you know what? I'll give away a bonus. I'll give away a bonus just for being nice. This is Region Board. This is basically the entire Region Board list minus the Iron Moth. So this is the straight Teal Mask build. This is new one knocked out. So this build, you basically need to try to get rid of whatever is holding the most energies or a lot of disruption so they don't actually go back into their Cedars or their Crispins. Because the main perpetrator in this deck for the energy acceleration is Crispin and Cedar. One brings from deck, one brings from grave. If you can actually shut that off, the deck stutters really badly. Also, there are counter cards like increasing the attack cost of the deck makes the attack a bit more unreachable because the deck is very weak to alter attack cost. In this current format where we have Latias EX, which gives all basic Pokemon free retreat, those strategies that increase retreat cost aren't very useful. But there was a large amount of Pokemon in the world, and a lot of using the effects like from Submass Overpon or Wellspring Overpon, which locks them in place and makes them unable to retreat. And because most decks only play one single switch, I play 2 instead of 1. it really locks them in place and makes the game very difficult. Because if you lock in place, let's say a Latias, they can't really do anything. They have one switch. If they don't draw it, it's prized. That's basically the game. They have no way to get out of that. Or then maybe using boss to boss up something else and hoping you can't retreat. So there's that. Another option is to try to outlast them if you're playing a one prize deck. Because if they burn through their recovery items to bring back energy from the grave, they basically just outright lose. Current builds of this also have the Mew and the Noctowl box. So let's go down. I have Noctowl box completely separate. There we go. And these are the parts here. So they won't run Sparkling Crystal, but they will have the Noctowl, the Hoot, which only works if they have a Terra Pokemon. So priority target should be the Teal Masts, because they give the draw power as well as supply energy for it to discard. So priority target should be Teal Mask. Or if you're seeking to actually lock them in, you can actually take out the Latias, and because I'm not playing many switches, you may be able to actually lock them into a high retreat cost Raging Bolt, because that 3 retreat cost is difficult for them to come across. They do have some outs against the Cornerstone Mask in the form of Raging Bolt. So even Mimikyu, this is what they used to get out in Mimikyu, as well as the Iron Moth. So that's something to note. And because this has no effect, it can also get through the Cornerstone Mask. And that's about it. That's the thing to note. Just keep track of those things, and that's an easy way to play around the deck. Again, not every deck has a way to counter, but there'll always be a way to play around the deck or to prod for weaknesses. Well, this might go fast. This is a Dragapult Charizard deck I have, but it doesn't really change the ongoings of this deck and how to play against it. So main parts would still be Build, Dracloak, Dragapult, and Charizard. Those are the main portions of the deck. They will always have a Serendipity, but again, Serendipity is a target when needed. The main thing is to try and not let them get into Dragapult or Charizard. If you're unable to do that, the next priority target would be Dracloak. This is both the stepping ball for the Dragapult as well as a large amount of card selection for them. So if you can take these out, especially current build that does not run rare candies, you'll be able to actually hold them out for a long time. This can also be achieved by running a couple of de-evolutions, because some well-placed de-evolutions, yes, it returns them to the hand, but they lose the energy attached to them. And because they don't run too many energy retrieval options, the current build again, the World Champion build for Dragapult was running 4 stretchers only, and no super energy retrievals, meaning they can only bring back 4 Pokemon or energy. So if you can actually get rid of their energy, because their energy counter is around 7, you can actually stall the deck. And again, Budew is used to hold you off early game. It can also be used to hold them off, because again, if they have all that energy in the graveyard and low energy counts, a well placed Budew that they can deal damage to, pretty nice. Also, they don't really have access to free retreat options. Some builds run Mew, so if you're actually able to trap them when they have full energy on board, so again, knowing the energy count of decks is important. You can also kind of force them into a difficult position. The return of these Zard builds, with just Zard, short for Charizard, and the Pidgeot, means that Cornerstone completely blocks the deck. But you need to also be aware, if it's Dragapult, the Cornerstone does not stop Dragapult. This damages damage counters, and that's 200 damage that can't be ignored. So thing to note. And also, this brings 3 fire energy. That doesn't always have to go on Zard, because sometimes Serendipity is also a valid target. Because because this takes 3 energy to kill something on your bench. So even if they are locked in because of a cornerstone mask, please note First and Deputy can still attack the bench and do some surprise knockouts for you. So please be aware of that. And general rule of thumb with using the cornerstone mask, they're going to try and boss around it. So if your plan revolves around using cornerstone to block off a deck, please make sure that all the Pokemon you have other than cornerstone mask on the field are less than the amount of prizes for them to win the game. Because it's very tragic to play cornerstone mask and 3x Pokemon and they boss all 3 Pokemon and kill them and take 6 prizes. The Gardevoir deck, I'll make a completely separate video on that because Gardevoir is a lot more complicated to do counterplay for. So I hope someone finds this insightful. Pretty short video and just a mindset thing. Also knowing how to adjust your cards, because these things can be accomplished by almost any deck, because we all play boss to pick targets properly. We also mostly play attackers, so we should be able to at least somehow cross these Pokemon if it's not once or twice with attacks, and also being aware of their key pieces and how to take the decks apart. The other decks, we'll get to them eventually. I just want to show you my baby, just to show a bit. Cattle one. This is a Team Rocket's Persian deck. You may see some of my upcoming videos. So there you go, little sneak peek. Thanks for tuning in. See you all next time. Bye.